What's up, guys? Welcome to the Deviant Gentleman podcast. My name is Shane Vitko, and today I have a very special guest co-host. You may know him as Mr. Sarcasm, Mr. Caffeine and Sarcasm. Yeah, Mr. Caffeine and Sarcasm, Mr. Logan Campbell.
What's up?
It's a pleasure, dude. It's good to see you finally.
Dude, all the way down here in Texas. This has been a crazy trip.
And how long was your flight?
It wasn't, what, 2.5 hours? Okay. Not too bad.
And you came from?
South Bend. We flew out of South Bend. There's a direct flight from South Bend, Indiana, to which is where Notre Dame is. Everybody knows, Notre Dame Fighting Irish.
I actually didn't know that, but now
yeah,
I do.
That's what I'm saying. Everybody knows Notre Dame. So
but isn't that Michigan? I always thought Notre Dame.
No, it's south of Michigan, just like 20 minutes south. Well, but everybody's always like, oh, the Fighting Irish Rudy, and there's a direct flight from South Bend Airport, which is a tiny regional airport, all the way to Dallas. So
a little backstory. So we kind of, we met through social media, through Deviant Gentleman, and then started talking. And ultimately it was like, I watched a lot of your shit, and I was watching, things you were posting and stuff. And I was like, hey, it'd be cool if, we could get you on the podcast. And here we are. And, this has been how many months ago that we talked about this? I mean,
what, 2 or 3, somewhere around there?
So, not awful, but and you made the trip, and here you are. So a quick rundown. So you are a law enforcement officer.
I am. For
how long?
This is including the time that I spent working in the jail, this is going on 12 years.
Okay. Does that count? So if you work in corrections,
no.
Are you because like in Mass, it's considered sheriff, like the sheriffs
run
the jail.
That was the same thing.
But then if you switched over to be law enforcement, that doesn't run concurrent, I guess. Like it's not.
No, it was. I'd worked, and I'll say where I used to work is Boone County. I worked in the jail there, and then I worked on the street. So I got promoted to a deputy, which is a completely different job. So inside the jail was one job, and I started part-time when I was in college. So I would go home on the weekends and work in the jail and go back to school. And then I got full-time in the jail. And then 2.5 years into that, I applied to be a road deputy, which is a police officer essentially, but
transport, right?
No, it's in Indiana. I know there's a lot of different states do different things, but in Indiana, the sheriff's department covers everything that a police department does, including the jail and the courts as well. So, there was that side of it. But we have correctional officers for the jail, and then we had road deputies for, responding to emergency calls, that sort of thing.
But so then when you started as actual, like working for a department, that was starting from square one, like that other time doesn't accrue towards your retirement or anything like that.
Right.
Okay.
So I'm in a different department now.
Right. Married?
I am.
How long?
It'll be 10 years in December.
Damn.
I know, it's crazy.
And you get a couple.
Feels like a lot longer.
And you get some sproglets at home too?
Yeah, 2 of them. Yeah.
How old?
5 and 7.
5 and 7.
Yeah.
Boys, girls?
Both.
You got one boy, one girl?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I think that's the American dream is what we're all shooting for.
We had talked about 3, and then after 2, it was like no, no more.
So tell me about what made you decide to do the Caffeine and Sarcasm? How did you come up with the name? Was that the first thing you came up with? And then what did you want to get across with your platform?
So initially, my wife works for a fashion blogger, we'll say. She works for an influencer. And I'll shout them out. I don't care. It's called Living in Yellow. It's a great company. Yeah. Cha-ching, free shout out. And when we had moved up to the area that we live in now. And I had gotten this new job at this new department, and, we'd worked off of just a cop salary for years, live within your means. You can do it. Yeah. It's just tough. And she had followed this gal for years, and she was like, hey, she's hiring and she's in this area. I'm going to apply for it. I'm like, that's a fucking unicorn job. Just because there's a name for it doesn't mean it exists. And well, sure enough, she gets hired, and I'm like, well, that's pretty cool. And she brings home a laptop. And so I'm like, what is this all about? Like, how does this work? So I watched them do what they did. It's fashion related stuff, but I was watching it and I was like, I could do that. And I just I used to be Officer Campbell 182. That was my original handle. And
what was the 182?
That's my unit number.
Okay.
So that was my initial thought. I was like, man, I'll do this and it'll be, fitness related. And, my initial goal was to get cops and anybody really off the couch.
Was the initial thing just Instagram?
Yeah.
Okay. So start with Instagram.
I'm mostly just on Instagram. I mean, that's because that's where I have the most activity.
Right.
But I'd started it, just to motivate guys, get off the couch and do 10 push-ups, do something, and I sort of started seeing other guys and you look at the bigger platforms of cops that are Instagram guys, and it's like, there's 9 million of them. So I'm like, how am I going to fit into this? And so then I just started doing whatever I wanted to do. I'd talk about cop stuff or fitness or food or whatever. It was just, I kind of treat it like a diary. And for those that follow me know that it's, I do my day to day on there. Like, I've been complaining the past week that I got a damn pimple in the middle of my forehead. It looks like I got shot. And it's like, it is what it is, and I just sort of treat it like that. And recently, I think it was in 2 or 3 months ago, actually, the thought came to my mind. I was like, I really kind of want to get away from the whole Instagram cop, because a lot of it is sort of frowned upon. You get the guys that are definitely out clout chasing. Look at my badge, look at they're out there flexing and doing all this stuff. And it's like, I get it. Like, you're trying to motivate some guys and do everything, but I'm not out there I'm not throwing up thirsty pics. I don't do anything shirtless, because I respect my wife, right. And that was one of her things. She was like, don't do that. And I'm like, all right, cool, done. I don't need that attention. So I sort of drew away from that. And then I was like, well, why don't I just take away the name altogether and change it to something else? And I had already come up with this shirt with a company that I work with, Barbells and Badges, and it says it's Caffeine and Sarcasm. And that's the two things that cops run on, because, we had kind of spitballed with it. And I was like, well, I'm going to make a podcast. And I didn't want to call it the Campbell commentary or whatever, because nobody fucking wants to hear that, And I was like, what is something that would, somebody would listen to? And I was like, well, Caffeine and Sarcasm sounds kind of cool. And then I just came up with it. And I tried to do, as my Instagram handle, just Caffeine and Sarcasm, but somebody already fucking has it. I sent him a message. I was like, hey, I would really like to have this. And I never got a response. And from what it looks like, she was anti-cop anyway. So I was like, God, screw it. And so I just put a Mr. in front of it and called it good. So now it's Mr. Caffeine and Sarcasm.
Right. And you said you've been doing that for about 3 years?
Yeah, it was 3 years in May.
Okay. And so what's the direction? Do you take the podcast the same thing as like Instagram? Like, what are you trying to accomplish on the platform for the podcast?
To me, it's initially I had started it like it's, I sort of took it from the view of my Instagram that there's 9 million fit cop Instagrams. Mm-hmm. Well, there's a whole shit ton of cop podcasts too. And I was like, I don't want to do just that, because guys that when I'm at work and I'm listening to a podcast, I don't want to listen to a podcast about work. Right. I want to listen to something else, so I'll throw on Joe Rogan or whatever, because it's about anything. And I was like,
or Deviant Gentleman.
Yeah, or Deviant Gentleman. Absolutely. Absolutely. So I talk about anything. I've had Mark Lobliner from tigerfitness.com, MTS Nutrition. He's a professional bodybuilder. I've had him on there. I've had Cass White. I've had a friend of mine, Steve Tirani's his name. He's trained any alphabet agency you can think of, FBI, CIA, he does that stuff. I've had so many different people on there and just talking about anything. Like, I've had cops on there. I've had all kinds of stuff. So it's literally just, hey, what do you want to talk about today? Let's talk about that, So it's just sort of like a diary for me. And I guess it's entertainment for people. I don't know. I don't really honestly know where I want to go with it. Yeah, it's just fun.
I think the same thing. And early on when I started this out in LA, and I had asked, some famous people about podcasts and what are the 3 things I need to know and that your advice and whatever. And a lot of it I took and I it helped immensely. But, a lot of times it's you gotta stay in this lane, either interview people all the time or don't. Either right. Make it just you and Tommy or don't. And I'm like, well, also fuck off. Right. Yeah. Because honestly, dude, I've been doing this for a little over a year now, and I realized the realities of that this is what this podcast has done for me. People think that like, especially people back in Boston are on the impression that like fucking this podcast, it pays my fucking bills.
Right.
And it does not, dude. This has cost me more than anything else.
Yeah, I get that.
But what I've been paid in, to me, that's worth it is relationships, connections, networking, opportunities, and like, so fuck it. You know what I mean? It's like, that's when it's just going to come down to what is your monetary value or what is your goal in all this.
Right.
And for me, and I'm sure it's the same for you, how many people that I get that message me that are like, I just had some kid in England that was like, of all the motivational things I listen to and watch and blah, 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 your story resonates with me the most. And I'm thinking like,
you won.
Yeah, but I'm thinking like, who are you watching? Because I watch some of these guys, and I'm watching David Goggins, some of these guys, and I'm like, fuck, man, these dudes just lay it down, you know. But that's what keeps me going. The days that I go like, this is fucking stupid. Why do I even bother? Why did I paint this room? Why do I even? It's a fucking YouTube sucks. Why do I keep doing this? You know. And then she reminds me, and she's like, because the fucking people that message you and tell you, thank you so much for speaking the truth and helping them out, from addicts to whoever it is, and that for me is enough, But one thing, something that I wanted to talk about that I had put on here was like you said about the cops that do the TikTok, right? Because or anything social media wise, because there's a few things. First of all, there's the ones that are like dancing around and shit in their uniform and like doing fake shit with the cruises with their pot, and it's like,
and they claim they're doing it off duty.
Yeah, right. And then every comment is just like, dude, don't you have a fucking job to do? And it's like, well, this was my 10-minute lunch break, and it's like, bro, I know Instagram, it takes 10 minutes just to edit that motherfucker. Stop lying. But and it's like, but like I do follow a lot of canine cops and a lot of stuff they're doing and shit, and it's like, that stuff to me is I like it. Now I also think about, I can't think of his name offhand, but he's got tons of following. He did the LeBron thing, and I think he got fired and then maybe either got rehired, or I don't know what he's doing now, but he made a pretty controversial thing. So one thing that I'm curious to know about is when a lot of officers will put my views on my own and not a reflection of my department. It's like, hey, I got news for you. You can't say the N-word on your Instagram and it doesn't affect your fucking department. So like, I'm very confused by that a lot when it's like my views on my own. I'm like, well, yeah, but also no.
Yeah. It's I don't think anybody can say that, honestly. I don't think anybody should. But I actually am supposed to schedule something with that particular officer. I don't remember his name.
I reached out to me, didn't even answer me.
Yeah.
Motherfucker.
He's supposed to come on my show. And I hit him up like right after it happened because somebody I know knows him, one of those networking kind of things. And I was like, dude, I got to get him on the show. Like, I would love to and then I haven't had time. But I think one of the biggest things that people need to focus on, especially cops that are wanting to do this stuff, is make sure it's okay with your department. I've been cleared by mine. Like we sign something when we get hired. I will not post anything in uniform on social media, blah, blah, blah. Well, when I started mine, I asked my chief, he was my patrol division chief at the time, hey, I want to do this. Is this okay? And they were like, as long as it stays positive, we're good with it.
Yeah, because I was going to say, I see a lot of cops too will blur out their shit and everything. And I mean, yours is pretty.
Yeah, I still do that. Yeah. And it's just, and I've kind of phased mine out, my uniform, just sort of, like I said, to pull away from that whole look, I'm a cop kind of thing. Because I want to focus on what I'm doing. But
I mean, I also think too, at the end of the day, it's like this, you're not a fucking sales rep at AT&T. Like you have a fucking serious job, and not everybody's on your team. And the last thing you fucking
even less
need,
than it used to be.
Right. And the last thing you need is more, I make sure to give a general idea of where I live, and I will never do anything with my house number or my street or anything. I mean, that's just fucking common sense. You know what I mean? Because people are not fucking wired right.
Right.
So
I got a damn marked car in my driveway though. So I mean, it's like,
yeah,
that's what always makes me laugh, especially the older guys at the departments, is I caught a lot of shit when I started doing my stuff. From guys my age to older guys to whatever. Oh, you're doing famous stuff or whatever, and it's like, look, I'm not doing it to hurt you. I'm not doing anything to you. Shut the fuck up. Mm-hmm. Like I'm trying to do something for me and do something for everybody else. Motivate them, get them. Maybe you should listen to one of my messages. And you wouldn't be the way you are, but we're public servants at the end of the day. Especially if we have take-home vehicles, your vehicle has a unit number on it. They typically have a car number. Right. Your name and badge number is public information. It's not like people don't know that you're a cop. Right. Especially if you have a take-home car. They fucking know where you live. Everybody that lives in your area knows where you live. So, I mean, everybody who wants to be all secret squirrel about shit, it's like, don't be a cop then, or do something that's actually secret squirrel.
What is where you are right now? What's the number one thing? I mean, everywhere is going to have gangs, drugs, the whole shit. But what is the number one thing that you're dealing with daily, nightly, shiftly, whatever what are the most calls?
Meth.
Meth.
Yeah. I mean, it's, especially the area that I work, there's a lot of factories. So the older guys that work in the factories have to keep up with the younger guys, and they'll start using speed. And it's like when I was in central Indiana, we saw a lot of the homemade stuff. It was kind of dirty. It wasn't like crystal clear. And I get up north and it's like fucking Breaking Bad shit. Right. I mean, I was like, holy cow. And it's coming from south of the border. And, you talk to the guys on the drug units and everything, they're like 100%. Yeah, it's coming from south of the border. Nobody makes it anymore. And the funny thing is we have such an odd spectrum of people that we deal with, because we have Amish, and I'm talking like horse and buggy, right, Amish folks, and Hispanic drug gangs.
But do the Amish want you to kind of stay the fuck away from them and like let us police our own people kind of thing?
They come into town.
Because I just think of the show Banshee.
Yeah.
With the Amish, like with Proctor.
No, it's they do kind of keep to themselves, but they do come into town. And they'll go to Walmart or Aldi or whatever, and they'll just be riding down the street with their whole family in the back of this thing, and it's interesting. Some of them have their things all lit up with all different colors, and
you can't get calls from them because they don't have phones, right?
They go to a phone bank.
No
it's
shit.
it's like a local phone for like the 12 families that are in the area.
And have you seen drug abuse within that community or no?
You get the ones that are on Rumspringa, the young kids when they are deciding if they're gonna
stay. Yeah,
right. And they call it they're jerked over. They're jerked over the fence if they stay on the the English side of life. And I have noticed that the kids that are jerked over like their weed.
Of course,
marijuana is still illegal in Indiana, even though
it's actually illegal here too.
Michigan, Illinois, Ohio, and I think Kentucky is legal now. So we're literally in the middle. Right. But I always tell them, like, move to fucking Michigan. Like, it's right there. We're 20 minutes from it. But yeah.
So me, and here's what really drew me to this. First of all, since I got sober, since I started the podcast, since my perspective on life has changed, and I guess I've fucking grown up.
We all have to at some point.
But, and it just took me a long time. It took me to 38. But, my whole life was like, it was two sides. It was, cops and robbers, right? And like, for me and my friends and everyone I knew was like, fuck the police. Mm-hmm. You're trying to prevent me from having fun, doing what the fuck I want to do. It's not fair. You guys pick on us and all this shit, right? Then even when I went to prison, fucking COs and blah, 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 and all this shit. But what I can say is that even throughout all that, my whole life, right, is that I always, even in the town I grew up with, had this one guy that no matter within the obviously with exception to like great bodily harm or something that's a major crime. But other than that, it was make sure I got home, if I had shit, dump it out, to the lines of like, you got two choices. Either I'm going to take you in or dump it on the floor.
Right.
Both suck, but it's your choice,
Yeah.
So obviously I'd rather dump it out. And then even when I was in prison, there was a lot of COs that I disliked and I thought worked way too fucking hard. But then there was ones that we used to say just did 8 and hit the gate. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And like, they weren't, it's not like they were bringing drugs in. It's not like they would let you get away with shit, but they didn't go out of their way to break your fucking balls. Right. So, back to my point is that for the longest time, I would have never imagined that, I'd have friends that were cops, people that I respected and had friendships with. And now, I have more law enforcement officers following us, have sent me these, their unit patches and coins that I talked to that, I just had Matt out here staying with me for a few days. The second time he's been here, he's a close friend of mine. You and I have got close and, and it blows my mind. But I think what it helps, especially again, what do we use these platforms for? And for me, it's that I know I still have a lot of friends that struggle with addiction. I know I still have friends that are in and out of prison. And I also have friends that are police officers. And my goal is, especially with such a fucking torn nation right now between who's liberal and who's conservative and who's a cop and who thinks defund them and who does drugs and who doesn't. So for me, this is a place to show that, like, dude, shit is possible, right? Like, you can change. And if anything, it's like it helps me get a better understanding of how officers are or how, the logic and what you're trying to do. And then on the flip side of that is to like know that not everybody that does drugs is a piece of shit and just going to waste away and do nothing, because you can turn it around. You just have to do the work.
Right.
So I am curious to know because my impression of you is that I don't feel like you go out and try to break balls. So I guess my question is, when you, how do you determine when you get to a call or something and there's drugs or something involved with, how do I offer this person treatment as opposed to just fucking, tag them and bag them?
It's, if you were to ask anybody that I've ever worked with, especially recently, they would not tell you that I'm a hard charger, because I'm not. I'll tell you that from the get-go. I'm not. I've never been one to go out and look for, the biggest drug dealer and do all this. It's like, I just liked the job. And my dad was a cop for 32 years. I've literally been around it my entire life. So it's, to me, it was a job. It was, and I hate when people say this shit, when they say, oh, it's not what we do, it's who we are. That's a fucking lie. It's a job. Right. And I can't, I'll fight you on that. But to me, it's like, there are people out there, especially when I was working in the jail and then working outside of the jail, there are definitely people out there that aren't just, like you said, aren't just pieces of shit. There are definitely pieces of shit that I've encountered. And it's like, look, I just took you 2 weeks ago and you're out again already, and it's, because they're indigent and the judge lets them out, or, the prosecutor we can get into that, but there are definitely different ways to look at it, but you treat everybody the same. You have to. And that comes from a human aspect. Every time I make a traffic stop, I used to do this. I don't anymore. I used to ask every single person, no matter if it was Granny Smith or Raquise, I would ask, are there any guns or drugs in this vehicle? Every single traffic stop. So then when I'm in court and this defense attorney says, well, you only asked him if there were drugs in this vehicle because he's black or because he's Mexican. No, fuck you. Look at every single body camera footage of every single traffic stop I've ever made.
And is that why you stopped?
No, I stopped because I had talked to somebody who was really into doing drugs, and he was like, hey, that kind of puts people less at ease. Like if you're trying to get in that car,
right.
You don't want to do it. So I'm like, oh, okay, well that makes sense, yeah. But that was my whole mindset, was like, I literally treat every single person the same. And everybody always gets freaked out on traffic stops. You know who else gets freaked out on traffic stops? Fucking cops.
Yeah.
Because we are at the ultimate disadvantage. So everybody's like, why does he have his hand on his gun? And why is it? And it's like, because anybody can turn around and shoot you. You know, how was Timothy McVeigh found? You remember Timothy McVeigh, right? Oklahoma City bomber, traffic stop. Ted Bundy, twice, traffic stop. I mean, it's like we don't know who we're walking up on. So yeah, because you might be pissed off because I stopped you for having a license plate light out or a tail light or whatever, and you might think it's petty. It is petty. But you know what? Criminals got to get A to B somehow.
Right.
And that's how you find them. So to me, treating people like a human being, treating them the same from the beginning.
Oh my God, she hit the fucking camera when she walked by. I think she's pointing at the fucking ground.
From the get-go, it's you have to treat everyone the same, and you have to give respect to receive it. No, you're fine. But in the long run, if people start treating you like shit, then it gets a little frustrating. Because I can only say "sir" so many times, and still feel like you're even gonna be listening.
Right.
So to me, I treat everybody the same, and even when my life is being threatened by people, I'll fucking kill you, and it's like, "Sir, please stop." Especially when they're in handcuffs and they're jawing at you behind, and it's like I don't know how. I'm not gonna sit there and call you a piece of shit. I mean. I've never done that on duty. It's just not something that you do, because you're not only representing yourself, you're representing the department that you work for, and you're representing law enforcement as a whole. I started without body cams, and now I'm to the point where I fucking love these things, because I got a complaint, and it's like, watch my body cam. There's nothing there, and then nobody ever wants to come in and watch the camera because they don't want to be proved wrong. It's like everybody wants to point fingers until there's something that's going to prove them wrong. It's frustrating.
I mean, dude, I haven't committed crime or done anything fucking crazy in years now. And even still, when I see a cop and everything, I'm like fucking 10 and 2 and trying to be like, oh shit. And it's like, I don't think that ever goes away an old lady. I don't even think.
Dude, I do that.
Yeah.
I do.
But really what I've just come to realize is just like, I'm just keeping it calm, cool, and collective. And like, if I get pulled, and the same thing, it's like I speed. And if, people are like, oh, you speed. And like, well, then fucking, if I get pulled over, I'm willing to pay the price, like, what can I say? And if a cop pulls me over, he's like, any idea how fast you're going? Yeah, about fucking 70, what the speed limit is?
Yeah.
I think like 45, well, why are you going so fast? I have no fucking real excuse. I'm just trying to go, And, because if there's one thing like that I've learned in sobriety and shit, it's that honesty is the best policy. Doesn't mean it's always going to be the nicest, fucking most comfortable outcome, but it's by far better than me trying to come up with a story of, oh, well, what had happened was, so my foot got stuck and then I fucking sneezed and my foot went down. And it's like, come on, man, cops have fucking got bullshit detected. I'll never forget when I was a kid and, I was in a car and I was smoking a joint or some shit. And this was like fucking 95, 96 or something. And there was a cop standing on the side of the road in Boston, and I didn't see him, and something, and I forget what he said, and he was like, what's going on? I'm like, oh, nothing, and it was this black guy, and he's like, hey, motherfucker, don't bullshit a bullshitter, and I remember how, like, horrified I was, and I was like, it took me, like, a minute to think in my head, and I'm like, don't bullshit. I'm like, oh, fuck, so, he gets it, and I was like, I'll never forget that time. It scared the shit out of me.
Dude, we get lied to for work.
Right.
I mean, like, when people try and feed you shit, and it's like you act like I haven't heard this. I might look young, but I've done this a lot longer than
how old are you?
I'll be 33 in August.
33. That's why you're lifting all that fucking heavy weight and doing all that shit, too.
Yeah.
Jesus
it's
Christ.
fun, man.
Yeah, it is. But, here I am at 41 now, and I'm like, I'm doing jiu-jitsu, doing all this shit. My shoulder's fucked up. I already had shoulder surgery over here. My back's thrown out. I'm doing this competition coming up, and I'm like,
oh, yeah?
I've just convinced myself that I'm going to be doing this competition at about 85%, and that's just the way it goes. Yeah, fuck it.
You'll be fine.
We'll figure that out another time. Do you still have the same passion right now to be a cop as you did in the beginning, given the circumstance around everything that's happened with defund the police and people's view on the police?
It's funny that you ask me that. I haven't said anything on my platform, and I honestly wanted to do it here. I just put in my 2 weeks after all these years of doing this, and I'm done with law enforcement.
Because of
no.
Okay.
And that's one thing I wanted to get straight. I did want to drop that bomb on you, by the way.
Boom. See, now would be the time on the roadcast.
Yeah, man.
Fucking, like Brad Leo when he hits the fucking bomb thing.
Yeah. This is something that I've struggled with for 2 years probably. It's one of those things where I've like I said before, my dad was a cop for forever, and I have been. I've literally known no life outside of law enforcement. I've worked other jobs, served tables and all that shit, but like any life outside of it, I don't know what it's like. And I want to find out. I'm still young. Like, that's something that I want to learn about and experience. And, my kids are old enough to where they're like, why aren't you home in the evenings? And, I've missed so many baseball games this year already, and it's their first year doing it. And I'm like, this sucks, and that's part of the job. It's one of those things. It's, you get the guys that post the, Happy Father's Day to all the dads eating from this table today, and it's a picture of their fucking computer in their car, and it's like, that's a fucking victim mentality. Mm-hmm. Don't do that shit. But it does get old. But you signed up for it, and I just don't want to sign up for it anymore. And some of it is probably because of the national feeling of it, but it's not the same anymore. Yeah. And I fought back tears because I loved this job. I saw my dad do it and saw all the people that he worked with, and I loved it. I worked at the same department that he did, and it was one of those things that I got sucked into it, and I still have passion for it. I still love it, and I still love everybody that does it. It's just, it's time. And this is a job where you have to be 100%. You can't be anything less than 100%. And I'm not anymore. Specifically the department that I work at now, they want producers. I don't want to do that anymore. Yeah. That's not my style of policing. I want to go out and talk to the people, and, I'll take my calls and do all that stuff, but it's just right now ain't the time to be setting quotas, not that that's happening, but now's not that time, and it's
then what do you have? What's the plan for next?
I accepted a sales position in the private sector, which I'm nervous about.
What about like private security? Would you ever do that?
I looked into that, and it just,
you want to just be done with,
I just kind of want to be done right now.
But do you have any fear of like, I know, like for me, separating from the military, a lot of guys separating from, you know, especially, my friends that are team guys and stuff like that, and have done this certain thing for so long. And then, of course, go to law enforcement because now you get kind of fed that chaos a little bit. You get that kind of brotherhood thing. And then when that's gone, now what?
It's interesting that you say that, because I've talked to guys that have been in the military and in the teams, and they're like, I couldn't be a cop because it's 365 days of deployment.
Right.
And it's, Jocko put that into perspective for me. And it was, when he said that, I was like, that's kind of right. I don't know what it's like to be deployed. I was never in the military, but, after almost 12 years of me doing this, I'm like, I'm kind of done. I want to relax. I want to take a breath. And
well, it's that instant spike of stress to come back to. And that's like you're deploying every day, because it's like hit the job, stress, then come home, shut that off, and hi honey, hi kids, let's play fucking Matchbox cars. You know what I mean? And not remember the fucking house that I walked into where kids were getting raped or some shit. You know what I mean? It's like that's a tough thing to keep going back and forth. So, but I think that's commendable too, because it's like, I think a lot of times we hold on or stay in something for too long because we think we're supposed to, we have to. I have to make my dad proud still. It's all I know. Yeah. And then the what ifs. What if I fail? What if I'm not good at what I do next? Or, all this shit. So that's pretty huge. But
and like I said, I kind of dropped that on you, but it's like, I want people to know, especially cops, that there is this mindset in law enforcement now that it's like, if you don't do 20, you're a piece of shit. If you're quitting now, then you're just a pussy. And it's like, It's like, no, I just don't want to do this anymore. Like, I have this opportunity and I'm going to take it. I want to jump on it because I have so much more life ahead of me. Why would I want to be miserable for the next, because when I got at the department that I'm at, I had to start over retirement wise. I got 15 years till I can retire. Who's going to hire a 48-year-old that's waiting to pull his pension?
Right.
Nobody, And why would I be miserable? Why would I not do a job that you have to be 100% in? Why would I want to do that? And, so it was like, I saw this opportunity and I'm going to jump on it. I've had fun. I've loved what I've done. And I love the guys that I work with, the guys and gals, but it's time. And I'm willing to admit that. And it's okay to do that. I started therapy 2 months ago, going to a therapist, just, I've never been involved in a shooting. Thank God, but I've seen some shit,
Right.
that'll be there forever. And I almost died in 2016. I was almost run over, and it's just like a lot of stuff builds up and builds up and builds up. And I've heard it put like, you can only fill up a bucket so much, and without somebody taking out from that bucket, it just keeps pouring over. And I got to a point about 2 months ago where it was pouring over, and I was struggling. Yeah. If my wife says something, then I'm like, oh, I need. Dude,
that's why when I found Breathwork when I went to LA and then finally got into that, and for me that was that, like a pressure cooker. Every time it's just getting more and more. It's like, for the normal person, the normal drinker, if you will, someone that can, have a glass of wine with dinner or drink a beer and when it's half empty or it's not all the way gone and leave it on the counter and go shucks, like that never fucking resonated in my head. So for that person that works a 9 to 5 Monday through Friday and Friday hits and they have 2 glasses of wine and it's that little pressure release. But if that's not my option, what the fuck do I get to do? Because I got all this shit plus my crazy brain and plus my trauma and plus the traffic today and plus the fucking humidity and plus my dogs won't listen and plus my girl and plus blah, blah, blah. And eventually I can't afford for that to get over. Never mind blowing over. I don't even want this much fucking space at the top, right? Because that next thing is going to fucking skyrocket it through and I'm going to be back in prison. Everything I worked hard for is fucking gone because I just will lose my shit. So for me, I found Breathwork and I found, I recommend to anybody, if Breathwork's not your thing, fine. If therapy's not your thing, church, you got to find something. And it's to me, it's more than going to the gym. Going to the gym is great. And it's just, for me, it's not enough. I needed to do more so that I could, I used to tell people like I did Breathwork once a week to keep society safe. Like that's what's keeping you safe is like, because then the pressure drops a little bit and I'm able to deal with your bullshit on a weekly basis. And then I keep making room for bullshit.
So I can go to the grocery store.
Yeah, exactly.
And not fucking kill somebody.
But prior to you dropping this bomb, I still do have fucking police related questions.
Let's do it.
And I just want to say real quickly that I do apologize to my buddy Matt at the Operational Athlete, my buddy Will, Boy Will Jones, and Travis, the owner of Alpha Elite Performance. We did a podcast last week, and for the first time in my history of podcasting, I fucked up the video and erased it. I fucked up the audio, and it just doesn't exist anymore. But one thing that we did talk to about, that I was talking to Matt about, is because I think it is a huge issue with officers with drinking, because that's how the fuck are you supposed to deal with this shit, dude? How are you supposed to deal with deploying every day? How are you supposed to deal with turning it on, turning it off, seeing some shit and doing all this stuff? And I honestly have worked closely with a few officers that have reached out to me and been like, hey man, I think I have a fucking drinking problem. And it's again, another thing to me that I go like, it's so crazy that I can be available to help somebody in that line of work where once upon a time I would have been like, fuck you, dude, we got nothing in common, you know, and I'm able to see past that now. And so my question is, it's a shame that, not that I think smoking weed should be a thing, but it's a shame that like, a CBD with this Delta 8 thing, or the microdosing mushrooms, or the, these other
You
natural.
ever tried DMT?
Yeah, I haven't, but like I have a buddy who's a ranger, and he just went and did whatever that toad serum shit is in Mexico.
Yeah.
And it fucking changed his life. And he's tried this, he's tried that. I mean, I've watched this kid struggle with PTSD and wanting to blow his fucking brains out legitimately, to where he's like, dude, I just got rid of all my firing pins, and like I watch him struggling, and it was one of those things where I wish I had an answer for him, and I wish I could take it away from him, and I couldn't. And I kept telling him, like, this is your path, man. Like, you have to figure it out. Maybe it's smoking weed, maybe it's that, I don't know. You have to keep trying, and hopefully you don't blow your fucking brains out. Like for me, getting sober, it was like I had to keep trying different things, and like I shot heroin for fucking, since from 23 to 38, so it's like I just had to keep trying, and all I had to do was not die. As long as I didn't die, I had another fucking shot. So fortunately, I didn't die until I finally found what worked for me. And he went and did that thing, and man, I can just see it in him of how transformative it is. I mean, I think that's something that, and it's like, I think we talked about with Matt and stuff, is that it's just something that will continuously get shot down. And it's a fucking shame that it's like, here's booze that's legal, and you can completely fuck your life up and fuck your wife up and, get, drunk drive and hit somebody. I mean, God knows, I mean, the possibilities are endless, as opposed to being able to do something that's natural, that could maybe fucking save some lives, or change the mentality of people. I read a thing one time about breathwork with cops in Canada, and the department did breathwork every morning before they went onto the battlefield or whatever, and shootings were down, and all kinds of things were down, because the officers were able to have more of a level head and be more released and not so stressed out.
When they take the big deep breath in and then let it out, they go, eh. Sorry, that was corny.
Tough crowd this thing on.
Right, yeah. I think I do know that alcohol is huge in law enforcement. And luckily for me, my addiction has been fitness. I may not be the fittest guy. I might not look, I'm not fucking what's his nuts from Alpha Nutrition, whatever. I don't remember the guy you had on recently. The guy that owns the supplement. Oh,
Travis?
Travis, yeah. I might not, look like him, but I mean, fitness has always been a passion of mine.
Yeah.
And luckily that's my addiction, because I don't like to go out and drink, because then the next day I can't work out. My recovery is, so then shit, I got to miss the gym, So to me, the Iron Asylum has always helped. But as far as like CBD, I use CBD. I use a company called CBD Ops. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
I was really skeptical of it.
Me too.
And, they hit me up, and they're like, hey, we'll send you a bottle.
Actually, yeah, I seen you post, I think, the black bottle, right? Because I
just had him on my show, yeah.
I was the same way, man, where I was like, especially I'm sober, and I'm like, I don't really want to do this, and like, I don't know if it's okay, and blah, blah, blah. But I did research, and I looked into it, and like, I was experiencing a lot of pain, and I have to, I'd take an ibuprofen 800 and, all this stuff. And I was like, you know what, I'm going to give it a shot. And the first time I did it, man, I was so horrified. I'm like, I'm just waiting for it to hit, and I'm going to start tripping balls and be completely paranoid. But it was nothing like that. It was literally no effects, other than like, I started taking it when I broke my toe in jiu-jitsu, and it took the throbbing away. That's it. All it did was just not have a pulse in my toe anymore. I still had, it was still uncomfortable and hurt a lot, but it was enough that it subdued what I was experiencing, that kept me from sleeping. And then on top of that, it's made my sleep completely different, where I still have I still sweat like a fucking hyena for whatever reason. Who knows? But my sleep isn't as thrashy. It isn't as sporadic of waking up for no reason, or just fucking crying, or who knows what. But I've become a big supporter of that myself, and I just don't know enough about all the microdosing and all that other stuff. And for me personally, like, I'm already at a place where I've dealt with a lot of stuff, and I'm cool. And it's not the risk outweighs the reward. Like, I'm not willing to go do ayahuasca or go lick this frog's asshole and get high for 8 minutes and trip my sack off And, you know, and they're like, oh, but people have never thought about heroin again and never thought about cigarettes. I'm like, that's cool. But also I feel like I'm the one that's going to go there and do it and be like, dude, I need to get all the, I'm going to start the fucking toad farm and just lick these. I'm going to carry one around in my pocket and just be licking its asshole all day long to get fucked up, because that's my mentality, man. Like, I know me and I'm not willing to do it, but that's me, you know, and I don't knock any of that shit. I just think, do your fucking research, talk to guys that have done what they've done. But it's just a shame that it's not more of an accessible thing, because then you fail a piss test. You know,
and that's one of the biggest bugaboos, I suppose, with law enforcement and CBD, because everybody's always like, I don't want to test and everything, and it's like, you know, they can say that it's 0% THC. But they're allowed to have 0.03% in there. That's in the fine print.
Right.
You know, but you have certain companies like, you know, the ones that you guys work with, CBD Ops, it's 0.00000%, and they test it and everything. I mean, I love this stuff. It's fantastic. You know, like I said, I was really skeptical, but it works.
And what was what did you initially take it for?
You know, I've struggled a little bit mentally just with the job, and they were
so
like,
an
hey,
anxiety, depression, kind of?
Yeah, okay. Kind of. And, you know, muscle recovery, it helps me with my muscle recovery, digestive system. I've noticed that. It makes a huge difference. But, you know, I've experienced a lot more death than people should. You know, when I was an intern at the department that I ended up working at, my first day, on day shift, the guy rolls up and picks me up. I'll never forget Sam Scott. He just recently passed away. Rest in peace, Sam. He's like, hey, we got a bad crash on the interstate. I'm like, all right, cool. So we get in the car, wee woo, drive down the street. And we get there, and it's a tractor trailer that had hit another tractor trailer. And the one in behind was underneath the one in front. The tractor was underneath the trailer. And we get there, and the back of the trailer is up against the windshield of the one in behind. And there's people there trying to put out a fire. It had caught fire. The other truck drivers were there with their little tiny fire extinguishers. And the fire's getting bigger and bigger. And we're like, you need to get back. Or at least, you know, the deputies were. I was just an intern. I was just standing there. Then all of a sudden we heard a loud pop. And inside the cab, the driver woke up. And the superheated air and diesel fumes and fire made it into the cab. And he started screaming. He was burning alive. And we couldn't get to him. And, sorry. We had to stand there and listen to him die. Because we couldn't do anything. And, you know, you get to these moments where you're literally listening to death, and you're helpless. That was my first day as an intern. For 2 minutes we had to listen to him scream, and then he finally died, and we stayed there for 6 more hours because they couldn't put the fire out. It was so hot. What he had hit was rubber gaskets was in the truck in front of him, and they were just burning and burning and burning. So I stood there and smelled those and him burning all day long for 6 hours. Right after we left that scene, we went to a 3-month-old that had died, a SIDS death. And I'm like, what is this? Like, that's... So for people that don't know what cops deal with, what they see, that was my day as an intern. And so we went to this infant death, and then the next day I had to do the autopsy for that. So I watched him cut open a 3-month-old. You know, so when I say I seen some shit, there's so much there that it's hard for me to even remember sometimes. But a couple of weeks after my internship, we were my wife now, she was my fiance then. We were sitting down at her parents' house, and her mom had fixed barbecue spare ribs. and she sets this plate down in front of me, and I break out in a cold sweat. And I can't get my breathing right. And I'm like, what's going on? She's looking at me like, what are you doing? Like, what's the problem? And all I could smell was him.
Yeah.
And that's all I could see. And I lost myself in it. And I didn't understand what was going on. And now, after these many years of doing it, I can feel that when it comes on. I know when it's coming. And I know how to deal with it. You know,
But what did you do to learn how to deal with it?
You know, I did some research. I looked into, because I'm not an anxious person. I've never been, you know, I don't sit there and do all this stuff. It's just that I'm cool. But I found anxiety creeping in. So I found different little exercises that I would do to sort of relax myself. You know, breathing helps. Working out has always helped me. But little tiny things like that I can do by myself. I carry around one of those grip trainers that's like a circle. Mm-hmm. I carry around those in my car. So I'll drive around my squad car and squeeze that thing. And that helps. Or I found this one where you take your finger and you push down in the very, like the heel of your hand, and you push as hard as you can all the way up your thumb. Then you go all the way up your index finger. So when I have something going on that I start to feel that way, I sit there and do that. I'll take my thumb or my index finger and just push all the way up my hands, and it's a relaxation technique. You know, my anxiety isn't breathing into a bag, you know, doing that hyperventilating stuff. My anxiety is I don't know how long I've been standing in the kitchen staring out the window.
Right. Yeah, because I experience, especially like, you know, with Kat and I, like she can kind of get a lot of anxiety real quick, and it starts to turn into a panic attack quick, right? Where like I have to bring her back down. And for me, I've never really been like that. I had often said, if I write a book, I was going to call it like a duck on water, because that's me, right? Like on the surface, I'm good, but underneath the legs are doing a fucking
paddling like hell. Yeah.
I would sit here just like this and be completely fucking losing my shit, but you'd never know it because I'm just like squeezing this chair right now like we're fucking on the Superman roller coaster going down, and I'm just like, holy fuck. And I don't know how, like, I would just kind of just take it, you know, mm-hmm. and then eventually it'd be gone, you know, to where, like you said, I learned silly as shit, where when I first learned it, I'll never forget, I was going to some like fucking PTSD veterans group at the VA, and they're like, okay, so we're going to practice grounding, put your feet flat on the floor and touch the chair and think, you know, what do you smell? What do you see? What material is a chair and shit? And I'm like, this lady's out of her fucking mind. This is the dumbest shit I've ever, you know, because my mentality for the longest time was, this is the dumbest shit. Mm-hmm. You can't tell me shit.
There's nothing wrong with me.
Idiot. You know what I mean? Like, this is what pussies do. And I'm a fucking man, and it's time to man up. Fuck this shit.
Yeah.
And then, you know, fortunately, later on in life, some things change and my perspectives change. And I started going like, you know what? All these things that people have told me throughout the years, maybe there's a fucking reason why they told them to me. Let me give it a whirl. And I would start to do it. And it's like, you know, seriously, where it's like I could see, and it's like almost now by habit, any chair I sit in, I go like this when I first sit mm-hmm. down, because I'm just like subconsciously going, what's the material and, you know, what's this made of or whatever, you know? And it's like, I think that attributes a lot to how not having to go to a restaurant and sit with my back against the wall, or, you know, I still have this issue with when I eat food, I still eat like I'm in fucking prison and I have 35 seconds to eat. And like my girl, everyone always makes fun of me because it's like, we go out to eat and I'm done in fucking 13 seconds like this. And everyone's like, bro, no one's going to take your shit. And I'm like, I know that. And I promise you, like, I'm fine. I'm hungry. But then I'm like, wait, everyone's like not even halfway done with their shit. So like, I have to like force myself sometimes. And I'm just like, cutting slow, and I take a bite and I sit, and internally I'm going, fuck, I'm about to pick this up with my hands and just devour it. And I try to like be more of a fucking human and not a Neanderthal when I eat food out to eat.
The funny thing is cops do the same thing. We literally just ate at Whataburger, and we sat down and I open it up and it's gone in 90 seconds.
No time to breathe.
Yeah. And And my father-in-law is sitting there. He's had 2 bites of his, and I'm like, see what I've become? Like, this is what happens. But it's so funny that it's that way in jail and prison. Yeah. It's that way for us on the outside too, because we might have 7 minutes to eat our meal, until the next call comes in. So I know exactly what you mean with that.
It's a trip. So I think I seen this on. So I scrolled all the way down to your very first post.
Oh Lord!
Doesn't you know what sucks? And I feel like this is most people's scenario. Or then what the cool people do is like all of a sudden they'll like erase a bunch of posts and start with the first one that has like 200 likes or whatever. But like mine or yours, you scroll all the way to the bottom and there's the fucking soldiers with 2 likes on them.
Still there.
20 likes, and it's like fucking hell, remember? But I think somewhere along the line I saw something, and it might even been something new, but you put you meet your 18-year-old self and you're only allowed to say 3 words. What are the 3 words you tell your 18-year-old self?
What did I put? I don't even remember.
I don't even think I looked. I just I looked at like a couple that people answered to and stuff.
Yeah.
But right now, 18-year-old young little Logan, maybe goes by L Money, who knows? He's 18. He's got.
I was a DJ back then.
He's got 1 hoop earring.
Yeah. Hey, I did. I had 3 piercings.
Dude, I had 4. I started when I was 10. I went to Canada and got my left ear pierced to make sure you knew I wasn't a homosexual. Because in the 90s, that's how you knew.
Yeah, George Michael, man.
Not into penises. I have just you can clearly see.
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
Right. Well, back then there was. We were like, oh, you're gay. That's weird. But now it's fucking do it. Grow tits. Do it all. Grow your dick off. Yeah, I got my ear pierced, and then, someone else, some girl I dated, drove a pin through my other ear, and then other ones I had all these hoops everywhere. Fucking what a jerk off.
Yeah.
I know mine, 18. What I'm gonna say is never shoot heroin.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
that's it. Or but I wish it was 3 words that could really hammer home, like, this will kill you.
Yeah.
Like,
right.
This will ruin your fucking life.
Yeah. I've actually brought 2 people back to life with Narcan.
Narcan.
Yeah. Yeah. Not at my old apartment. Our new one, we don't carry it, but.
No shit.
Yeah.
I thought it was a requirement.
It's that may be different in states, but because our EMS is so close to us that they don't see they don't see it as a necessity.
Has there been much of a heroin fentanyl pandemic where you are?
In central Indiana, yes. Up north where I am, it's more meth. There is some heroin, and we're seeing a little bit more coming over to where we are, but it's mostly central Indiana.
Isn't it crazy how that works, of just like little pockets of where things are like that?
It's
like,
wild.
So when I moved to California 5 years ago, I'd never seen meth or anything. I still have, that's one drug I still to this date I've never done. I don't understand it, and it's just not for me.
Yeah.
But fuck, man, and I worked in treatment out there the whole 5 years I was there, and I would see people that like literally just got high and then come to treatment and be like, dude, what about what you're doing right now? It seems fun.
Yeah,
I've
never understood that.
I don't get where the good times. Oh, dude, I'm telling you, it makes you want to fuck and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. And they're scratching
themselves. I was going to say, babe, I love you, but you walk in front of the camera this time, I'm going to fucking punch you in the face. So.
Wow. She's doing jiu-jitsu now, though, so you might.
That is true. That is true.
You might have a fight on our hands.
So that was the first time when I went out there and I realized it, and it's like, and now it's huge in Boston, and like Mass Ave is a fucking, looks like Venice in fucking California with tents and all this other shit. And I'm thinking like, man, it was never like that. But the fentanyl and the heroin is what hit, most. I mean, like I said, it's like me and my friends all started with, it was like Oxycontin was the big thing for a while. And dude, no one told us, hey, this is going to be, this is the equivalent of heroin.
Yeah.
No, nobody gave me that fucking memo.
No.
My memo was, dude, want to do 5 perks, and instead of doing 5, it's just this 120. And I'm like, hell's to the fucking dude.
Yeah.
Let's get down. And then no one also told me if I take it for a week straight, I'm going to get dope sick and shit my pants and fucking puke and have sweats.
Yeah.
Nobody gave me that fucking memo.
Yeah, everybody thinks you're going to be Jordan Belfort.
Yeah. Or
drop some Quaaludes.
I might have gone, that seems kind of fucking not that cool, but I just didn't know, man. You know? And what I thought was still me and my harmless, like, smoke weed and do some coke. And I did what I thought everyone was doing. I thought it was like the phase that all kids went through. But then I slowly started to see one pack of my friends go to college and go off and live a life, and me and the kids that I stuck down the other path with and continue to just lose everything.
Yeah.
Until most of them are either dead, in and out of prison, doing life in prison. And then there's, the fucking 3% of us that are fucking living life and like cut the shit. You know what I'm saying? But that takes work. So now that we know that fucking Mr. Campbell is going to be no longer with the force, so we got a sales job, more time for the wife, more time the wife's thrilled.
She's nervous, because this is all she's known too. Right. I was in it before we even got together. So we have always known.
How much throughout the years has she given you shit about being a cop?
She has always supported me 100%.
I think that's super important too.
And it's she through night shift, through afternoons, through days, she overtime, and like I said, we were just working off of my salary. Right. So I was working a lot of overtime, because we got to pay for this, or you learn to live within your means, and you learn to do what you need to do. And she has always 100% supported me on it, and it's fantastic. Like you said, it's so important that you find somebody that'll do that. But she's a little nervous. I think she's more nervous than I am. I think it's going to take me about half a year to realize that I'm out, and it's, whenever I go on vacation, like here, I'm like, I'm not a cop. I'm not a cop. Right. It's just like, I'm here. I'm just having a good time. I'm doing this.
But I think the thing is, there's two things that I can say to you from another man's point of view, is that one is that, like, I know I'm not in the military. I haven't been in the military for fucking 20 years. But that shit never goes away. I was at the VA today to get a tooth ripped out of my face, and some old veteran guy was in there going ballistic and started to raise his voice and shit to where like they call the cops. And a few things went through my mind. I wanted to be like, dude, stop. I know this game. These motherfuckers are coming to tackle you because I've been you way more times than I care to admit, and I'm not 70. And like, I was red flagged to the VA. I was just a motherfucker, dude. And because I had such a short fuse and such a temper. But that, and then I also put everything in my pockets and was ready, because I'm like, if this guy all of a sudden does something, there's two females that he's screaming at like that, and I am not going to allow him to just start assaulting them. Right. And I think the ladies behind the desk saw me and saw my posture and were like relieved knowing that I was there until the cops came. Because like, I'm not fucking, Johnny Save the World and gonna fucking step in and go, sir, you need to lower your voice, and is there anything I can do? And like, I'm here to fucking save the day. Yeah. But I'm very aware of the situation, and if I can prevent something or someone from getting hurt, I will do my best to do so within my means. Right. So I think that that's something that you will possess and will never go away.
Oh no, that's a man thing.
Right.
Well, okay, it could be a woman thing too.
Right.
But I
think it's a thing of anyone that's been in something kind of assertive of knowing danger and how to address that, because like, just because there's danger doesn't mean you get, Byron Rogers says it the best all the time. Like, you need to know that what your level of like, I forget how he words it, but you don't know how willing the next guy is to go to murder or to whatever. Like, just because I'm willing to, hey, break this up and make it peaceful, doesn't mean this guy's not willing to fucking whack me in the neck with a machete. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, you got to always be cautious of like, if this guy pulled out a machete, I'm not going to step in and go, sir, I'm going to need you to stop. Like, that's something I need to ask myself. Am I prepared, and do I know how to take down someone with a machete? Maybe, but I'm not going to die and to jump right into that. I'm going to wait until maybe you swing and miss, and then I'll try to do something. I'm not going to go like this and fucking, okay, take your best shot. Yeah. I'm cool, man, because I don't want to get hit with a fucking machete.
Nobody does.
Right.
That's why people with knives and machetes get shot all the time.
Right.
I mean, it's because I don't want to get stabbed. Right. I don't want you to get stabbed. Right. So, ultimate equalizer, right?
That, and then I would say the other thing is that I can tell you from the transition from military to civilian life, of how I just felt so fucking, went from feeling so useful to so useless. And I think that's why I turned to drugs and alcohol so much, is because I just didn't have purpose anymore, you know, and it took me a long time to find purpose again. So just know, I think that you'll probably, you know, you could have the smoothest transition ever, but just know that I think, just like I'm sure you're familiar with, like I said, the podcast with apparel, with all this stuff where you have those days that you go, this is fucking so dumb. Like, what am I, fucking 13? This is a hobby. What I do is dumb. Why do I even bother? And then you get out of that funk and you go, you know what? I got to keep pushing. I got to keep throwing shit at the wall.
I say that weekly.
Yeah. So I think that's a thing where I think, you know, you maybe will have these days, but it's like, that's what I love about my relationship, is having this open line of communication where I'm like, hey, look, I'm kind of having a day, and, you know, this is what's going on. Just know it's because I'm transitioning from something I know to something that I'm going into. You know, I think it's healthy fear. I'm transitioning into the unknown, and I don't know if I'm going to be successful or fail, but I'm goddamn willing to find out. But just know that in that transition, I'm confident that it will be success. But also, I know that there could be days that I want to fucking give up, or that I'm just feeling down and out, or I don't want to get out of bed. And I think you're allowed to have those hours or days. I don't think you're allowed to have those weeks and months. No. That's when it becomes detrimental to your fucking health and everyone around you.
Well, and having the guts to take a chance alone is hard enough.
Yeah.
I mean, hell, when I started out this year, I told myself 3 things. 1, I'm going to hold myself more accountable for things. If I fuck up, I'm going to call myself on it. Hold myself accountable. 2, be grateful. Find something to be grateful about, no matter how bad the situation is. You know what? I still got a job. You know, or whatever. And 3, and I told you when you initially asked me to do the show, was make myself available. Be available for stuff. And I think that's so important. So to go back to having the guts, you know what? I got the guts. It took guts for me to come out here. Fuck. I was like, well, I don't want to do it over Zoom. Like, this is a really cool opportunity. I'm going to be available. You know what? I'm going to come out there. Yeah. So I flew my ass out here. Like, it's just, and with the, you know, transitioning to a new job, you know what? Somebody who means more to me than he'll ever know, he told me, he was like, you've got the guts to do what none of us do.
Yeah.
And he's like, that's getting out and being okay with getting out and trying to do something else. Like, because once you get into the job, a lot of times guys get married to the pension.
Of course.
And it's like, why am I married to that?
I mean, it's the same thing with the Army guys staying. Yeah. It's like, well, I have to do 20, you know? And it's
no,
like,
you don't.
I mean, it took guts for me to leave Massachusetts and go to LA and then get sober and start getting vulnerable and talk about feelings and cry and do all this shit. And I was like, what the fuck? I can't do this. And then I did it, and it turned out to be one of the best decisions I ever did in my life. Yeah. And then from there, to just fucking up and leave and go to another brand new state and recently engaged, and like, what if that doesn't work? And what if we this, and what if the people, and I don't know what to do. And since being, I mean, my life just continues to grow and get better. And I think it's taking guts to do, take new challenges on within reason. Like, I'm not going to now sell my house and be like, you know what? I'm going to try to work for NASA. You know, I mean, it's not a realistic, I know what's realistic within my life, but also, like, you know, I keep dumping money into the company to take a fucking chance. I keep doing these farmers markets to take a chance. Like, nobody's just going to come knock on my door and be like, hey, do you know where I could find some beard butter? Because I can't find it anywhere. You know what I mean? It's like you said, something that I think I reshared it, but someone, because there's so many different brands of so many different things, but someone was like, you know, if you're getting down on your business or whatever, have you ever gone down the bread aisle? Because look at how many different things are fucking bred there. Yeah. And they're there for a reason, because somebody only wants the Pepperidge Farms. Someone always only wants the Artesian or whatever. That's the one I love. You know, and that kind of, you know, like I said, I mean, I'm like a fucking real crayons and blocks kind of motherfucker. You know what I mean? So like, when I see it laid out like that, I'm like, that makes sense to me. So it's on me to go to these farmers markets, to keep pushing my product, to keep making my label stand out more, to keep, you know, what am I, because we're all selling the same shit, but you support, I support companies because of the story of who owns it, because I like how the logo looks. And then obviously, ultimately the product has to be good too, you know, but,
I think that's huge. And that goes with anything, even if you're just trying to build your brand on Instagram or whatever, like like I said before, there's 9 million fit cops out there. So that's why I was like, well, why don't I just do what I want to do? Somebody will find me. Somebody will like it, you know? And I've built this community now. And it's like, you find who your target audience is. There's a target audience out there for everybody. Yeah. There's people out there that like to lick fucking toes.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you know, the audience is there. You just got to find it. And it takes a lot of testing and trial and error and time. People want stuff right now. And it's like nothing is instant. So, you know, look at people who diet. Oh, I tried keto for 2 weeks and it didn't work.
We're the fucking age of Amazon.
Yeah.
Amazon fucked up everything.
Oh, 100%. You know, that and Hydroxycut, like when it was originally there, right. The real shit worked. Right. The original stuff.
It was meth in a pill.
Yeah, I was going to say, they're putting ephedrine in it. So, you know, that shit worked, but, you know, now it doesn't work because they don't have that in there.
Hydroxycut. Oh, my God. I remember you'd see those ads in the back of Muscle and Fitness or whatever, and the guy was just this big fat slob and then completely ripped.
Oh, yeah.
Like, yep, I'm sold.
3 weeks later. And then the commercials, yeah, man, I tried Hydroxycut.
All right. That's a wrap, dude. That's fucking, we've gone a little over an hour now.
Yeah,
so tell the folks where they can find you. Give me all your shit.
You can find me on Instagram at Mr. Caffeine and Sarcasm. I am on TikTok. I do some stuff on there, but that's really great video editing thing. I don't dance, so there's none of that. But that's just at Caffeine and Sarcasm on there. Okay. And then my podcast is Caffeine and Sarcasm, available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, that sort of thing. Right. I'm on Facebook too, but Facebook sucks ass.
Yeah.
When it comes to like reaching anybody, dude, it's fucking horrible.
I honestly keep Facebook for like friends and family, dude.
That's the same.
And then whatever I share to Instagram, just will automatically share it there, and otherwise I could care less.
I think I have like 15 unread messages on Facebook. Yeah. I just don't give a shit.
And then you want to plug badges and barbells?
Oh yeah, barbells and badges. Yeah, that's a huge company that I work with. They're based out of Maryland, actually.
I talked to them online not too long ago. Someone from there.
Yeah, probably Mark. But yeah, it's a great company. You know, I've been working with them since I started my Instagram. That was the one company. You know, you get a bunch of guys that have a fucking discount code for everything.
Right.
I work with like 3 companies, and they're the one that I've stuck with the most because they're awesome. You know, they have obviously there's the barbells and badges section, which is, you know, that's where. If you see me on Instagram, you see me training in these stupid fucking headbands and, you know, leggings and shit, because I don't care what people think. So I wear headbands because I sweat like a maniac. But, you know, shirts like the one I'm wearing today, and not today, IA. Right. You know, it's just different shirts and everything. They make shorts, they make all kinds of stuff. But they also have it's a nonprofit called the Honor Hero Project, and I'm actually a board member of that. So I think it's 10% of each purchase from barbells and badges goes towards the Honor Hero Project. And that is something that funds families of law enforcement officers, firefighters, military personnel that have died in the line of duty, or, you know, medically died, that sort of thing. And we support them through monetary means. You know, we create a shirt, we come up with, so it's a fundraising effort essentially. If you can go to honorheroproject.org for that. It's a really cool thing. You know, we did one for my friend Jake Pickett that was murdered in 2018. We did a shirt for him, and we do one yearly for it. So, I mean, it's just a really great thing. So, you know, it's pretty awesome.
Awesome. You can find me on Instagram at Shane.Vitko. You can find Tommy at Tommy Vexed.
Hi, Tommy.
Hi, Tommy.
I wish you were here, buddy.
And Deviant Gentleman is at Deviant Gentleman. Facebook, I think, is /Deviant Gents. You can find Beard Butter. I just finished doing the hair pomade. Will be up and running. I'm going to send you off at one of those little locks you got upstairs for that drill sergeant haircut you got. And
dude, I can't do a mohawk at work, but, you know, maybe in a couple of weeks I can. But I can't do a real mohawk.
Massachusetts State Trooper.
Dude, it's a full hawk. Like it's faded.
So that's going to be up soon. DeviantGentleman.com, shirts, merch, all that shit. And I think that's it. So thank you guys for tuning in, and we will see you next time.
Definitely.